Now, after this whole Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings thing, you guys probably already seen it now. You've seen some of these cards. You've seen some of the tokenization of these characters who have already been described and depicted as white, described by Tolkien, as well as being depicted already. But this is to be expected. This is modern media. This is modern entertainment. There is some video, though, that was getting shared around. This is, of course, high concentration of some interesting people. Let's say that over at TikTok. And this is, of course, where this came from. Now, there's a plethora of different things that we have to discuss. I'm going to try to speed through it as far as what this entails. But let's just look in on it, and I'll give you my comments. Let's check it out.
I promised I wouldn't break down today, and I'm trying not to. But the one thing I didn't get to say about this is we've seen Baranor in the Shadow of War video games, but he was a made-up character for the Lord of the Rings. And I've never seen myself represented in the Lord of the Rings before, so...
All right, man. There's some issues here. Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah, it's interesting that this is a fully adult man that is talking about never being represented in the Lord of the Rings. Okay, so he talks about it from a perspective that he actually was at least a fan or enjoyed it at some point. I don't know if he's referring to the books or if he's referring to the movies and video games, but at some point he was interested in this. And all this time up until now, he hadn't a need to feel represented or his representation being limited to his skin tone until now. And he is emotionally, I guess this is more, I don't know what to call it. It's not distraught because he seems to be more so it's happy tears out of this whole deal because he got a tokenization from a already established characters. When I talk about people that only see legitimacy in white characters and people that only, this is the types of people that I'm talking about, okay? That they, for whatever reason, make themselves shallow, okay? Because they don't have, I guess, anything else interesting about them as opposed to their skin tone. But they are so shallow and they feel like everybody else is, and they limit what their relatability to be is limited to their color. You know, I talk about this with Isom, and of course, there's obviously white people that are already fans and supporters of his the first book and the character and being intrigued by him. I don't want people to feel like that. The only way that you can see this person in terms of feeling some level of relatability is by way of skin tone. That's absolutely nonsensical. That means that I have failed as a writer. That means that I have failed as a creative. If you can't get something out of this at all, aside from, well, this person shares a skin tone that's similar to you. Now, never mind that it makes no sense in the context of what we're talking about with their world at all. But it goes to show this whole hyper emphasis that we've had on race and in this country over the years, which has actually gotten worse despite race relations should have been getting better, considering all the opportunities and how further removed we are from these state-induced forms of discrimination, such as Jim Crow and all that. Yet here we are, and it seems to gotten worse. And as you build and breed another generation of people that hyper-emphasize race, then this is exactly what it is that you get. But we're not even done here. He's shedding real tears, bros.
This is awesome, because I've never seen myself as one of the main characters before, like actually seen myself represented in some form of like official Lord of the Rings media. So that's representation matters. Lord of the Rings has been my favorite for the longest.
Okay, see, that's self-defeating, homie, and I'm just telling this to you, like just giving it to you straight. That is a self-defeating point. See, what it sounds like has happened is that be it big media entities or big like when you consider like the narratives that have gone around, they've really hyper-emphasized diversity, inclusivity, and representation. And you have unfortunately fallen for that gimmick, right? To where you feel like now you've had this emotional tie to this, and now you're saying, oh, I've never felt represented, and you just haven't said that you've been a fan. What was the problem, dude? See, this is this is an individual issue, and these companies are catering to that individual issue, which is often bred by the same people that have instilled this in you, that you are only to be limited by way of your race, and therefore you've seen a character that isn't historically a black character. You've seen that character, and now, well, they've been race swapping. You're talking about representation matters. It's like, it's a gimmick, it is what it is, but you're showing how shallow it is. And this is something that I think, on a serious tip, is a very dangerous line of thinking that is being instilled in our youngsters, where they are, it's a learned trait, let's call it what it is, and they are themselves being limited to that, and that is their skin tone. When I hope, as anybody out there that's a parent or gonna be a parent, like, dudes, make it about their accomplishments, their merit, their things that they actually have control over, as far as that. And number one, you shouldn't feel like you have to be I think the term representation is so stupid anyway, in this regards, but I think relatability is more of the intrigue here. Now, representation in itself is basically like someone else is acting as a stand-in for you, and that's silly when you limit it to your colors or your race or whatever, ethnic background, whatever it is. However, in the context of like an accomplishment or an experience, something it is that you actually went through, that you went through as an individual, that doesn't even, it's not something that's unique to an individual race. This is something that, can apply across the boards. I think that's what made Lord of the Rings interesting, despite it being something of that geographical area that Tolkien wanted to give their own sort of lore and mythology. That doesn't mean that people all around the world couldn't enjoy it. I mean, it's not like we have this problem with other areas having their own set of whether it be mythology stories that have been told, where the makeup of those people are going to be of this ilk, and people can still get something out of it. A lot of you guys grew up playing Dynasty Warriors, which has been this kind of dramatization of the Chinese dynasties, Three Kingdoms and all of that. And, you found characters interesting, and yeah, all of them may share the similar race, but that's what that is. And you can still get something out of it. You might like Hawkeye, you might like Lu Bu, who is a kind of a rogue badass of a character. Like, don't limit yourself. And this is what I would say to him. Like, don't limit yourself to your race. That's why you're having kind of this emotional reaction. Let's finish this out.
I don't think they understand how important this is.
It might be important to you, but it's a learned trait, and it's important in the sense of it's artificial. Okay, that's all that it is. It's something that you kind of have, where it either taught or you learn, whatever, however way you want to put that. It's the same thing, I guess, where you have your brain wired to believe that this is something that is that matters in the grand scheme, and it doesn't. It doesn't. This is some sort of ploy that these entities are dangling in front of you guys, and you guys unfortunately are eating this up. Because let me say, I'm probably a little darker than you are, and this doesn't make me feel any kind of way. But I know it's a tokenization, and yeah, we could talk about the sloppy seconds and all of that sort of stuff, where again, y'all only see legitimacy in white characters anyway, and how silly and goofy that is. But I don't feel any kind of way about this, other than I think it's stupid.
Important how much this means to me, to see myself, be able to see myself as Aragorn. So
anyway, this is obviously what a lot of the reasons why they do tokenization in various like live action depictions, or even in comics and stuff. You see stuff like that. They're catering to that demographic, and then when you see you hear them talk about it, it's like what's going on with the Little Mermaid. They of course pay lip service to this nonsense of oh well, the little black and brown boys can finally see themselves, is what the star of the Little Mermaid is what she's talking about. Even though in a similar interview, she's going on about how she wanted to be Ariel and how she loved this when she was growing up. It doesn't make any sense. No, it's a completely artificial, arbitrary kind of creation of them, where they just came up with this concept out of thin air, and they've made it important because, well, they're playing on, I guess, your emotions, and you think that it's important, even though it's not really when you think about it, certainly in context. You guys love this stuff already. And you didn't need to feel like, well, someone needed to be your color or a main character needed to be a similar race. You're so stupid, man. Loser stuff. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Ripperverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit ripperverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Ripperverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.